Hey guys, it's Troy here again, and wanted to cover a couple of things with you in this video. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the newer acquisitions and show you what they look like so you can get ideas for your collection. And also, I wanted to share a few more tips for newbies. I had some pretty good reaction to the first video that I did. I knew that there would be more to come, and actually I was thinking about some of these things and jotted them down, and I spent all day long today. I mean, I've got several pages of stuff to go over with you. So let's touch on a couple of things. First, some of the newer additions to the family. On the low end, I picked up a Bauer 508. It's actually a very pretty pen. It's a black and white marble. It's medium nibbed. I don't know how well you can see that with the video camera that I've got, but actually it writes fairly well. I can't complain about it. I mean, for like a $3 purchase or so, it writes all right. I'll show you what some of these write like here, but I put like Noodler's Heart of Darkness, since it's a black pen. Wanted to try out a different black ink, so I put that in there. Also, in the mail today was actually a pretty good pen mail day for me. I picked up and ordered and had it shipped from Europe a Pelican. A lot of people like the birds, but a Pelican, I don't know if you can see that on the finial real well, but this is an M150 is what it was sold to me as. It's a fine nib. Now, quite honestly, I'm not a big fan of fine nibs. Now, this is one of their lower end pens, and actually, I didn't plan on buying this pen. I kind of bought it accidentally. This was one of those where I put in, and I still do this from time to time, and I'm doing it even right now, throw in some bids on eBay for pens that, you know, I'll throw in a fairly low bid, thinking, all right, if no one else bids, or doesn't outbid me anyway, I've got myself a decent bargain on a pen. And if someone outbids me, okay, fine. I may or may not go up on the price, and I've fought in several auctions here lately for some Mont Blancs and some Pelicans. So this one here is one of those I picked up on the cheap. Didn't expect to win it. But the thing is, this is one of the things for newbies. It's got an ink window. You can't really see it real well, but it does have an ink window there. And when I got it, the disappointing thing was it was full of crusted, dried ink, which really led me to the idea of some of the tips for newbies that I'm going to cover today. Fortunately, I was able to get it flushed out really well, and I'll show you a tool that I was using for that. So I was really happy with that. My Faber-Castell loom. In my last video, I touched on the Faber-Castell loom, and I've heard a lot of great reviews about it. It's made some top 10 lists for pens in its price range, and I understand why. It writes very well. I bought a medium nib. I threw in some Noodler's 54th Massachusetts ink into it. I'll show you what that looks like, and it writes very smoothly. I was impressed with it. It does a very nice job, and I tend to like medium nibs. Let's see. The big one today that arrived was this one. You probably recognize that bridge clip. You can probably tell right there that's a Visconti. And this is one of the Van Gogh series. Visconti, I've had several Viscontis on my wish list for a while, and I had the Rembrandt, which is their lower end. Rembrandt started about 140. The Van Gogh series tends to go around the 200s or so in price. This particular one, for a Van Gogh, was modeled after his painting Irises, and maybe I'll pop that up and show that to you. I'll grab a graphic of it. But anyway, that's what inspired supposedly the design of this pen. This one, I got a really great price on it. I was really impressed that I was able to get it this cheap. And I didn't pay anywhere near full asking price for it. But this one here is another fine nib. Like I said, I'm not much on fine nibs, and I've heard a lot about Visconti and quality control issues, so I was wondering, all right, how am I going to deal with this one if it doesn't? Nice little springy clip, like Visconti normally does. So how's it going to write for me? It actually wrote fairly well, even in a fine. Yeah, I've been inking and playing with inks today, and on a bunch of pens. Got another one repaired earlier today. So on top of the black ink that I had all over my fingers, now I've got Noodler's ink, some Bay State Blue, which does not come off real easily. And speaking of that, Noodler's Bay State Blue was this pen here. This is a simply gorgeous pen. Look at that. This is a Chinese, inexpensive fountain pen. I paid all of like $3 for this one. Interestingly enough, the family liked it so much, my wife pretty much stole this pen from me. I inked it up with that Noodler's Bay State Blue, and she took it. And she did a lot of writing tonight. And a matter of fact, that pen was empty when she brought it home. So I had to do some refilling. I gave it a good flush. Why not? Since I had it, and I put a different converter in it, a little higher quality converter than the one it came with, which came with that little slide on the side. Not a big fan of those, but they're inexpensive. This one's a medium nib, and interestingly enough, the nib says made in Germany. So it's not a Chinese nib, it's a German nib. So I don't know if it's a Jovo or a Bach nib. I have no idea what it is, but it says made in Germany right on the nib. But this is an absolutely gorgeous pen. My mother-in-law wanted one. My son, who's 7 and about to turn 8 in about 2 weeks, decided, since he's collecting pens, he wants one. Since my wife stole mine, all right, I ordered another one. Less than $3 a piece, folks. I've always said fountain pens, that hobby doesn't have to be expensive. But this is just a fun pen, and that's just it. It's fun. That's the whole point behind doing the hobby, is that I'm trying to have some fun with it. On order, I've still got a couple more pens from Fountain Pen Revolution. Kaweco Sport, which I haven't picked up yet. I've actually got a few others that I'm bidding for on eBay, and I'm going after. Some more Esterbrooks. This particular Esterbrook was my pen of the day. This one, I'm kind of going with the Noodlers thing here lately, but this one has Liberty's Elysium from Noodlers, and it writes really, really well in this pen. It's one of those where I ran out of ink, set it aside, and I was able to flush it out really well, and I'll give you a tip on some flushing here in a little bit. So, newbie advice. If you're going to be doing this as a hobby, you can expect some disappointments all along the way. You're going to find some pens that you like. You're going to find some that you don't. You're going to find nibs that you like, some that you don't. I said earlier that I don't particularly care for fine nibs. Some fine nib pens I've got write fairly well. That Visconti did fairly well. That Pelican did okay. My wife, on the other hand, hated them. Every time I get a pen, she has to try them out, and because she's enjoying them. And she's been to one pen show with me and wants to go to another pen show with me sometime soon. So she can't tell me that she doesn't like them. She said she's addicted. So she's finding that she likes medium nibs and how smoothly they write by comparison, as opposed to some of the finer point nibs. Although, like I said, these ones did okay. I'll show you a few writing samples that I did earlier. I'm not going to bore you with making them happen, but I'll show you what I've got. So you're going to find some things in your hobby. Some pens you're really going to enjoy and you're going to gravitate towards them. For instance, I found in my time, not just because of the emotional attachment to one of my first decent pens was a Waterman, but I found so far that every Waterman pen that I've bought, I have liked. And I've got bids right now on 2 more Waterman pens on eBay. One of them a vintage and the other one another Karen. I really like the Waterman Karen. It's one of my favorite pens. And so we'll see. I've got several more Esterbrooks that I'm bidding for right now that are vintage ones that I'm going to need to put like new sacks in them probably and work them up a little bit. So I decided, okay, I'll pick up some more Esterbrooks. So I found a couple of brands that I personally like. Esterbrooks are not expensive depending upon where you go. eBay, I've seen them going up as far as $50. There's I live in a town that specializes in antiques. The entire downtown has the antique shop motif. And within walking distance of my house, just about 3 blocks, there's an antique mall. That's an old Pepsi bottling plant that's been converted into an antique mall. And I went shopping there one day just to get out of the house, and I wanted to go check out, see what I could find for fountain pens. And there was one case that had a bunch of old fountain pens, way overpriced, I thought. $40 for an Esterbrook. And I looked at them, I was like, are you kidding? That's at least twice what I would pay, especially these with unknown condition. Just looking at them, I don't don't know if they're going to be restored. Probably do. Got to count on that. There's no way I was going to pay $40 a piece for them. And I even told the person who was there at the shop, and the guy started telling me, like, oh, you need to be one of those guys that they call on Pawn Stars when they need an expert to come in. I said, I'm not an expert. I just happen to know about these because I've collected them and restored them, and I like them, and I've got a bunch of them. But anyway, so I've got some more Estabrooks that I'm bidding on. So I tend to like Estabrooks. I don't like every Estabrook nib. I don't like every Estabrook model. But I'm talking the 1940s, 1950s Estabrooks so far, I personally like. And they're not really expensive. Let's say about 20 bucks at the high end of what I've been buying. I've been buying, like this one here, I've probably bought 10 bucks plus shipping. And I put a new sack in it. I polished it up some. It looks better now than it did the day I got it. It almost looked like roadkill, and actually writes fairly well with a nib that I've got. It's got a 2556, which I think is a medium nib, and it's a rigid nib. So anyway, you'll find pens that you like that you don't like. So there are two brands that I really like above some of the rest of the brands that I've got. And I'm hoping that will change over time as I expand my collection. So far, I'm looking at about 55 pens in my collection, and I've got more on the way. And some I've written with, I go, that's a great pen. Other ones I've gone, well, that kind of sucks. Others I've gone, it's okay. So I've got some pens I've flushed out and just put in storage. I've got others that I keep inked up and I keep using, and I've got a bunch of pens in my rotation. Some people are going to like your hobby. Some people don't really care. My wife at first seemed kind of indifferent. Seemed like she kind of tolerated the idea that I had this hobby. Until she started to get some pens, and she started to take my pens and start to write with them. Ooh, I like that one. So I'd order a new pen. She'd go, ooh, I really like that one. And me, of course, okay, sweetheart, you want it? Here you go. You can have it. No, really? Yes, you can have it. That's exactly what happened with this one right here. So I turned around and ordered 3 more at $3 a piece. I mean, come on. $3 a piece. It's a fun pen. So, you know, she's gotten $40 pens. She's gotten $12 pens. She's got other pens that she doesn't know about. That kind of thing. So, anyway, she's now kind of hooked on pens and on different inks. And she really likes that Noodler's Bay State Blue. Now, my middle son kind of wanted to be like Dad. If you saw one of my previous videos where I had a special guest host, that was my son, and his collection is expanding. He wants to go to a pen show. He is kind of into it now, wants to have a collection just like dear old Dad, and that's great. My mother-in-law has been getting a lot of pens from me that I've purchased and just given to her and said, here you go, in different inks, and she's enjoying trying different inks, some purples, some blues, and that kind of thing. Whereas my oldest, he doesn't really care. Doesn't seem to anyway. He's got his own. Doesn't really have much interest, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. This hobby is not for everybody, and not everybody you come across is going to be excited about it as you are. Even people who collect, you're going to find are not as excited as you may be, or are going to be a lot more than you are. That's fine. It's totally personal. It's totally up to you. Don't let some pen snob make you feel guilty. Don't let some pen snob make you feel inferior. You're in this for you. You do what you want to do with your hobby, and you enjoy it. So, I mentioned last video, never underestimate the value of a good flushing of your pens. And ran across that again today. Now, you're going to want to get yourself some pen flush. Start with some pen flush. And you're going to look on YouTube. You're going to find a bunch of videos. You're going to find that vendors such as Goulet Pens has a lot of information for you. And I happen to have some of their pen flush right here. And when you look online, guess what? You'll find out how to make your own. I've got a bottle of ammonia. I've got water out of my tap. And a little bit of dish soap. And you too can make your own. Okay? So, in these bottles, yeah, you can refill these if you want, so it looks like you've bought some. Anyway, I haven't used up all the stuff that I bought at first, not really knowing what they were. Then I did some research, found out, okay, all it is water, ammonia, and a little bit of dish soap. I can do that for a whole lot cheaper. But learn the kind of pen that you've got. Learn how to flush out different pens. For instance, just this morning, or no, it was yesterday, this particular Esterbrook, the nib unscrews and it's got a sack. And you have no idea sometimes how hard it is to flush out a sack on a lever-filled pen or an aerometric style sack. I'm not a big fan of lever pens. I'm not a big fan of having a sack in a pen. Yet what do I tend to buy a lot of? Esterbrook's, because I like the pen. I've got an Imperial by Schaefer that I've been fighting with. It's been giving me hassles, and I just replaced the sack for a second time today because the other one was like stuck together for some reason and wouldn't write. So I said, okay, I'm not going to be defeated after fighting with it. So as of right now, as of a couple hours before this video, I've got that pen writing fairly well, and with a Diamine Sargasso C ink in it. But learn how to disassemble, how to assemble your pens. Folks, I'm not going to be your expert, and I'm not intending to make videos that show you step by step on how to flush out a pen. I'm not going to make videos that critique every single pen. That's not what I want to do. There are other people online who do a very good job of that, and just like I did, seek them out and you shall find them. But so learn the different techniques for the different styles of filling systems. So whether you've got, let's say, a piston-filled system, like is on this Pelican, or you've got a lever and a sack is on this pen, or whether you've got a cartridge converter, like are on these 4 of them that I've shown you so far, learn how to flush those out. You'll want to use some pen flush once in a while. You'll want to maybe flush out pens prior to use. I definitely had to do that with that Pelican because I could see through the ink window that there was really, I mean, I was like, really? So I cleaned it out really, really well. And the nib on the Pelican fortunately screws out just like an Esterbrook nib does. And start with a bottle, learn how to make your own pen flush. You'll need a bulb syringe. In case you don't know what a bulb syringe is, any of you have had babies, or it's just these little snot suckers, as we used to call them with our babies. You'll need one of those. You'll need a needle syringe. I was using one just a little bit ago, and I've got one sitting right here. And a needle syringe is something that's really basic. They're fairly cheap. You'll probably want to have one of these in your collection. All it is you've seen syringes that you get, and it's just a needle that kind of screws onto it. It's a blunt needle. It's not like when you're going to inject into your arm or anything, but you can suck up ink and you can inject ink into something. This one still has a little bit of water left in it. I left it out to dry. I like to air dry these things. That's why I pull them apart. That's why I sit them in an old Chinese food container with, you can tell that I've been playing with some inks today. So I've got that sitting out in order to dry out. So, get yourself stuff like that. Let's see. What else? Oh, that's like this one. Learn different techniques for filling. This one, instead of, this one ran out a whole lot sooner than I liked it to. I know it's got a good size sack in it. So one of those bulb syringes, or actually more accurate, I guess that needle syringe, suck up ink, unscrew that nib, just push it down in, screw the nib back in, and I'm in business. That worked out really, really well. So learn your pen. Learn how each of them work, and learn how to do them. Now, a couple other things. Let me show you something I bought for under 30 bucks delivered to my door. Something that I've heard about, that I've seen other people have, I've heard of professionals using. I bought this little gem right here. For 30 bucks or less, actually less than that, on eBay, I got an ultrasonic cleaner. This is not very big, not meant to be. It's got stainless steel on the inside, a little basket that you can put down in, and all you do is you throw some pen parts in here that can be immersed in water. You put water in it, you plug it in, and you run it through a couple of cycles. One of the things I saw, it was really neat, especially on that Pelican that I was talking about, that I had to clean up, I gave it a really good flushing. Now, you think you flushed out a pen really well? Well, take that, throw it in a $30 ultrasonic cleaner, and wait till you see how much ink still comes out of a nib. That Esterbrook, I cleaned that sucker up good. I cleaned up that Pelican. I probably used that ultrasonic cleaner 4 times, and I've only had it less than a week, like 3 days maybe. I've used it 4 times on different pens that I've had sitting around that I wanted to clean, and I just went ahead and worked on it. So that's my advice on that, and it's not expensive to do. Next, you'll find that you've got your own likes and dislikes. You may love some expensive pens and hate others. I've got some pens, for instance, the Mont Blanc 32 that my son really likes. I don't like it so much. Other collectors I know love the Mont Blanc 32, which is why I bought it. I took some guy's advice that I saw from a YouTube video, and he liked it. I tried it, I was like, not really impressed. You may love some of those. You may hate others, right? My Lamy 2000, when I first got it, I hated it. Why? Because I had crappy ink in it. Flush it out real well, put in some good ink, writes really, really well. You may like some piston fillers. I like piston fillers just fine. Basically, it's like a cartridge system, only the cartridge is permanently installed, or a converter. Excuse me, like a converter. You may like aerometric, little squeeze bulbs for a converter. Some are permanently attached, some are not, like the Pilot Metropolitan. I can't stand those personally. I've got some that have got the permanent deals. I'm just not into them. I do not like them, and they're hard to clean. They're hard to flush. They have their pluses and minuses. The cartridge converter system. Some pen collectors absolutely love them. Personally, I like it because it's flexible, and you don't have to use the same converter every time. You can come up with new ones. Some people like the lever filled. Some people absolutely love that. For me, it's inefficient. I don't want to have to sit there and squeeze 5 and 6, 7 times to try to suck up enough ink for me to be able to write for a while. So to me, they're okay. They're just not incredibly efficient. Not a big fan of them, but I like Esterbrook pens for some reason. I don't know why, I just do. So I've got a bunch of them, and I've gone through 6, 7, 8 pens where I've had to change out the sacks on them. I just got to know them. I've given some Esterbrooks away once I've got them fixed. I've got bids on some on eBay right now, like I said earlier. Let's see. Do not overestimate or underestimate any pen. Jinhaos on the low end, they got some nice pens, they got some crappy ones. I like my Jinhao 159 over some pens that I've got that cost far more than those. My mother-in-law loved the 159. My wife liked my mother-in-law so much she had to have one too, and that just arrived like yesterday in pen mail. So try a lot of inks. Don't go on rumors or other people's opinions and go out and buy bottles necessarily. They can give you ideas. I've looked at a lot of reviews of different inks that different people have used, different collectors that are sharing their pens and their inks, and it gave me some ideas, so I wrote them down, and so I built them into my wish list at 2 different websites, and I've been buying a bunch of ink samples. Now, I keep a bucket. This is an old Halloween bucket that was on clearance at Walmart because it was still stuck around after Halloween. And I like Yoda, like Star Wars, so I've got one behind me that you can maybe be able to see. I got a Darth Vader back there that I put computer cables in. And this is where I put in a lot of my ink samples. And I had a whole lot more than that. And like one of my videos previously, I went through some of my new arrivals. And I said, yep, that was an ink sample. Tried it, liked it. The notorious Noodler's Bay State Blue. Tried it, really like it, and so I'm going to buy a bottle of it. And it's not the easiest to clean up. It's earned its reputation as being stubborn ink, but it's also a very beautiful ink. My wife likes it, I like it, so we're going to order some. Most of the inks up here behind me, that you can probably see right above my finger here, a lot of those were samples that I tried that I liked. Some of them I just went ahead and bought because they were on sale. Some of them were recommended. Usually I tried them in samples first. I can think of just a couple of bottles that I just bought sight unseen because I was looking for, and I didn't really know much about pens at the time. So that's my advice. Go through and try different ones. I've tried, I think, looking at my list, 38 different sample vials that I've put into my spreadsheet. I still got a bunch that I haven't even tried yet. I've got more that are in my wish list that I'm still going to purchase and get, and I got a few bottles now that I know that I like that ink. I'm going to buy a bottle of it and have it in the house. That kind of thing. So, I'm glad that a lot of these, though, I bought a sample, but not a whole bottle, because some of them I went, eh. And I'll show you some of those here in a little bit of my writing samples. Don't be afraid to try different vendors for pens online either. You know, I've used eBay since they started, basically the company, years ago. I still do. I've got a lot of feedback. I used to sell some on eBay too. I buy the vast majority of my pens, I got on eBay. This one, that was an eBay purchase. This one, that was an eBay purchase. This one, an eBay purchase. This one, an eBay purchase. This one, eBay purchase. This one, Goulet pens. You know, when I was placing an order, it was on my wish list. I went ahead and got it. These also are on Amazon.com for about the same price at Goulet. But I'm going to buy some more stuff from Goulet, so I'll probably buy another one. My wife wants one now. You pay extra money just to get a purple cap instead of a blue cap. What the heck? She really liked this pen. Matter of fact, I thought she was going to steal it from me again today. But I bought some off from Amazon, and they're okay. I've been a customer with theirs basically since they started the company. I found some great deals on both Amazon and eBay. Sometimes the same prices you get at a retailer. So if you're going to place an order at, let's say, Goulet, just get it at Goulet because you're going to pay shipping anyway. So just throw in a pen when you're buying inks or if you're buying other pens. I've also used Pen Hero out of Raleigh, Jim over there, the iPen store. I've been on Mass Drop, but 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 pens are from Mass Drop. And one of the things about Mass Drop is their drop lowest price ain't always the lowest price that you're going to find them for. So shop, compare. Not every sale you're going to see is a good deal. Birmingham pens, Anderson pens, Goulet pens online sometimes are really good places to buy a pen. Here's a good example. Just today I got an email from Birmingham Pens where I bought my second, I don't know if I can say that because she's going to watch this video, wouldn't she? My second TWSBI Eco. And it's already on route to me. And let's see, the first one, they're having a big sale. You buy any TWSBI product, you get a free bottle of ink. Great, did it. Wife loved it. Fell in love with the pen. So, okay, fine. I'm the kind of guy, she loves it. I just might get some good loving. Not just being a good husband. And spoiling my baby. So I bought another TWSBI Eco. It took over a week for them to even ship it because they ran out and they had to get more in. So just today they shipped it. And because I bought it on the sale, and I was like the last day of it, you get a free bottle of ink. Because it was late, he threw in 3 bottles. Not just 1, but 3. That probably will arrive in the next couple of days. Good customer service. I've always had good customer service from Brian Goulet and from the folks at Birmingham. And the Andersons, I don't think I bought anything from them online, but I bought from them in person at a pen show. And I follow their podcasts and their emails and stuff like that. So there's nothing wrong with being loyal to a seller that you like. Nothing wrong with that. My wife and I take a lot of cruises. There are some people who are loyal to Royal, as in Royal Caribbean. There are some people that are just Carnival all the way. And my cruises that we took were on Carnival Cruise Lines. And my travel agent gave me some great advice. She said, try a variety of cruise lines and find out what you like. So we've tried Royal Caribbean. Smaller ships, we weren't impressed. If we're ever going to do Royal Caribbean again, we're going to do one of the great big ones. Because we've heard a lot of great things and we've seen videos and documentaries on them. But the smaller ships, we weren't impressed. That's just personal preference, okay? Comparable to some of the Carnival ships that we've been on. We went on a family cruise, and we went on a Norwegian ship. Great ship, loved it. We went on MSC. Great ship, fantastic, elegant ship, loved it. Would never hesitate to do another one. We booked our next cruise. We went back to Carnival because there was a ship that we wanted to go on an itinerary we wanted to go on. And I own stock in the company. But the variety thing, we wouldn't have known what we liked and what we didn't like because we weren't going to stay loyal to just one company. It's no different than your customer service experience with pens, varieties of pens, or with pen distributors. So just keep that in mind. And somebody may be having a sale that someone else is not. Flea markets, antique stores, they're hit or miss. Some are not all that well priced. Some people are mighty proud of what they got. They don't even know what they have. Sometimes you can find a good deal. So, like I told you about the Esterbrooks that are right down the street from my house. Don't be afraid to try new pens, and especially if it's a cheap gamble. This one here. Good, classic example. I've gotten a bunch of pens. If you look behind me in my pen storage, I've got more Jinhaos than I have any other brand. I got more Bowers than I've got any other brand, or those two brands. I've got more than all the others because they're inexpensive, and you stumble across something that you like. A $3 investment for a pen. It's meant to be fun. This was a fun pen. That's why I bought it. And now that others in my family have seen that, they wanted a fun pen. So for $3, take the gamble. Try it. You might like it. And this one writes surprisingly well. I was shocked. And the price went down. So when I went to go order those other 3 pens, they actually dropped their price, a nickel or maybe a little more, maybe 15 cents a piece. So, look, I'm shooting at pens that cost 100 times or 200 times more than that little cheap pen. But I still get cheap ones just for fun. That's what the hobby's about, is trying to have fun with it. I'm having fun with eBay auctions where I'm shooting for higher ones, and I lose a lot of auctions here lately. I don't mind because I'm in it for fun, and I'm not in it for the prestige, but I've got some upper end pens, and I'm trying to move on to get more upper end pens. It's my next level pens kind of thing. So anyway, who knows? You might just get a pen that you like that people might comment on, and they'll interest them in fountain pens too. Once you find some favorite pens, enjoy the variations in the type. Enjoy the variations in the age of the pens. Enjoy the variations in the filling systems, in the price, in the quality, even within, let's say, a brand that you like. That's what I'm trying to do with the Esterbrooks. That's what I'm doing with Watermans. I've got 4 or 5 Watermans, and I've got some cartridge converters. I've got, I guess now they're all cartridge converters because some of them only came with cartridges and I bought converters to put in them. So I'm thinking all that. But there's one Waterman that I'm bidding on right now that's going to be a lever filled and sack. And though I'm not fond of that, I'm willing to try it because, it's something I want to do. So I've got Watermans that are $20 that I paid for. I got Watermans that are retailing right now for $300 that are in my collection. And I'm bidding on some now that are the upper end and some that are on that lower end just because I want to add them to my collection. You may want to invest some in some storage. Let me show you a few things about pen storage that I've got, that I've set aside to be able to show you folks. I have got behind me a set of shelves that I bought on Amazon for under $30. Around 30, somewhere around there, and all the pens that can fit in it, because some of the smaller ones, or even the faber-castell loom, will barely fit into it. So some of the skinnier pens will fit in it. Some of the fatter pens, like I've got a custom deer antler pen that I did a video on earlier. A Jinhao 149, for instance, or 159 rather, is not going to fit. A Mont Blanc 149 is not going to fit. That's great for anything but those. Okay. But so I keep my pens in something like that. Now, when I go out, there are several things that I do. Some pen slips. Pen slips are pretty easy. It's exactly what it says. This is a leather. These are retailing for $12 to $15. I've seen different suppliers. You just slide it in, and it protects that pen and keeps it from getting scarred up, chipped, scratched, that kind of thing. So, for instance, if I've got a $300 Waterman, I don't want to just throw it in my pocket. If I got a $2 Jinhao, don't really care, but you know, I'm going to treat it like it's a $300 pen because it's in my collection and I like it. So I want to keep a nice looking pen, nice looking. I don't want a work of art style pen to get all scuffed up. You don't have to go that expensive if you don't want for a pen slip. I've actually bought some others and I've given them to members of my family. There are ones that are just like a simple cloth, like a velvet kind of thing. Those are fairly inexpensive, very flexible. And then there are lower end leather ones as well. That got a little slip in there. And as you can tell, I bought a bunch of them. Fairly cheap on eBay. Yeah, you gotta wait for a while because they get shipped from China. This one did not get shipped from China, but you know, still, you can, if you're willing to wait, you can go low end on it. I got some of these fairly inexpensive because I'm handing them out. I'm not necessarily using these. I'm handing them out because I got the one that I want. Supplies. I've got an old, you can tell that I got kids because I'll throw up a picture of the, just an old, it's not a nightstand, but an end table that my kids have put stickers all over it because it was sitting around, and I've got a drawer just full of pen supplies. Matter of fact, I outgrew that, so I got to put some of them in a box like this. It's just a box that my employer had given me, and in it, you know, I throw in, you know, these are all standard international converters. I've got some, you know, pipettes. I've got empty sample bottles or vials. I keep in it cartridges of all types. Pilot. I've got converters that I haven't thrown in yet into my Lamy Safaris, that kind of thing. I've got converters for Waterman. I've got cartridges for Platinum Preppies, cross converters, cross cartridges, 3 or 4 different colors of standard international cartridges, that kind of thing. So I keep all that in something, just a box. I just need to get another better organizing system for everything to be in one spot. I've seen a few things that I like at my local Lowe's hardware store. Let's see. Oh, what else? I've got a couple of zippered things that I picked up. Something like this is just a zippered thing where you can throw your pens in here. This was actually a salesman's sample thing, and I picked that up off from eBay. I got this shipped from China. It holds a couple of pens, and I threw a couple of them in here just to see how well they worked, see if it was going to suit my needs. Some of the bigger pens, and actually I took both of these with me to a cigar shop that we have here in town. One of the biggest humidors and biggest cigar distributors in the country is right here, just a couple miles from my house. And I'm trying to get some really nice cigar boxes that are going to be velvet lined, and I can put my pens in, and they sell those fairly cheap. So invest in some storage if you're going to get serious about your hobby. So you start out small, you move your way up. Alright, well, that's all the newbie advice part 2 that I'm going to share. I think, with the one exception. The one exception is that you know, I talked about paper, and I did invest. I think I told you for my pen show haul. People talk all the time about Rhodia paper and all Clairefontaine and all these upper end papers, and I've been very skeptical. Rightfully so, because look, I buy and I work with, you know, office pads. This is where I wrote all my notes for the show, this recording, and I still use that regularly for just notepads for everyday use. I'm a firm believer in write what you're going to use, and I work at this very desk for a living. So this is what I do for a living. It's not record these videos, but I mean, I work here. So I went ahead and bought a Rhodia pad, and I got some fairly decent results. Some of the same pens that I write with on regular old paper do appear a little different on a Rhodia pad. Also, I keep this notebook that I've shown you a few times on previous videos. It's just an old blank journal book or sketchbook, whatever it is, and I've been using it. And I've got some really nice inks in here. Now, I'll show you some of the ones that I've been working with the past couple of days. I told you about that this nice blue Chinese pen. That one right there at the bottom, Noodler's Bay State Blue, medium nib, and it actually writes fairly well. At first I had a little bit of a flow problem with it, so I adjusted, and like I said, that slide converter, man, I hate those things. The more I use them, the more I hate them. Fortunately, I had some other converters, so I monkeyed with that converter a little bit. So once I got that solved, I actually came out with some decent writing with it. Flushed it out again just before recording this because my wife ran out of ink today. She took a Bible study get-together this evening, and she wrote the pen dry, essentially, and actually inked herself trying to get it to work. That little Bauer 508, which was this right here, actually wrote fairly well with a Noodler's Heart of Darkness. This right here, I had my pen of the day yesterday was a Waterman Executive, and I put in some fresh ink into it because I ran the ink cartridge dry. So I threw in some Diamine Mediterranean Blue, but obviously I'm not showing you those. This one right here, that one is my Esterbrook that I showed you earlier. This little black Esterbrook, and that one has the Noodler's Liberty's Elysium in it. That comes out pretty nicely. It writes fairly well. I was impressed with it. How about this one here, the Faber-Castell Loom? That's this one right here. And I put in the 54th Massachusetts from Noodler's. Writes really butter smooth. I'm telling you, very smooth writer on that Faber-Castell. It has a great reputation for a reason. I can't wait to try more. That was my first Faber-Castell. Alright. And Pelikan M150. This one came from overseas, from Europe, and just showed up today. Was really happy. And so it has the Rohrer and Klinger Verdura. Writes, it's a fine nib. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of fine nibs, but it writes really nicely. And then my Visconti. I got to take this Visconti out of my pen pouch here. But it's not coming out really easily with one hand, but I will. Got it. So, alright, so that's a nice beautiful pen here. And so this is the Visconti Van Gogh Irises. And I put into that a pen, or an ink that writes similar to some of the other, like a Mediterranean blue that I've got. Well, this is a Monteverde Caribbean blue. So, and that writes fairly nice. I can't complain for a fine nib pen. That actually writes better than I thought it would. So the last piece of advice, get yourself a book. I don't care if you get the Rhodia dot pad, but get a decent book that you can keep. And I put all my inks in here. So when my mother-in-law comes into my office and says, hey, yeah, I want to try a new ink, or my wife says, I want to try a new ink, I can hand her the book. And I can say, here you go. Take a look. These are all the ones that I've already tried, and take your pick. You can compare different greens, compare different blues, compare different blacks, compare different aqua style colors. So, alright, I've talked enough. I'm done. So hopefully you picked up a few tips for you people who are newbies, who are doing this. You're just getting into the hobby. Don't let, again, I'll throw this out, do not be intimidated by anybody who came before you. Do not be intimidated by people who think that they're better than you are because they own more expensive pens than you do. Do not think of yourself unworthy if you can only afford inexpensive pens. build yourself up, get what you can afford, get pens you want to write with, and just have fun. Bottom line, if you're not going to have fun doing the hobby, what's the point?